I'm Chey, and if you've got commitment issues like me, this one's for you. Ready? Rollin'. Not the Luke Combs albums, this one's for you, even though that's a really great album by a really great artist. Chey, this is not about music. This is a book video! Welcome to another book video. This is a video that has been in the works for a long time, since August. Am I just now making the intro on February 1st, 2024? And the wrap-up? We're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about what this video is actually gonna be about. Why did I put off making the intro for so long? I don't know, I just hate making intros, man. I just like to do the daggum thing. We're trying a new setup here, right now, on a whim. I'm standing in front of my bookshelves. I know this looks pretty bare, I promise it's not. There's a ton of books down here, it's just that I'm standing up next to the tall shelf. I'm gonna put another shelf in here, it's gonna look better. But I'm trying something new, okay? You gotta keep it fresh. You gotta keep it funky again with the hand. This video is gonna be reading 10 pages a day. What's the purpose of reading 10 pages a day? What are you talking about, Chey? What is that gonna accomplish? Reading what 10 pages a day? Maybe you're like me and you were a big bookworm as a kid and you just kind of fell off of it as you grew up and you want to get back into it. Or maybe you've never been a reader, but you're either curious to try, or maybe you don't want to be a big bookworm reader, but you have a few books here and there that you're interested in picking up, interested in reading. If any of that applies to you, if you just want to read more in general, no matter how much more that is, whether it's a book, 10 books, whatever that may be for you, this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to give you the strategy that helped get me back into reading for fun. And especially reading that intimidates me, but I still want to try. I fell off of reading for fun probably about the end of high school, really going into university, because when I went to college, obviously I had a lot more that I had to do. I had a lot of academic reading that I had to do. I had a lot of academic responsibilities and just life happening. I didn't really have time to read for fun, which is fine. Crap happens, you know? To be honest, for the first couple years of college, it was so stressful and so intense that I pretty much just stopped every single hobby that made me me. I stopped following bands. This girl stopped following bands. That should tell you that something was very, very wrong. I stopped playing any kind of video games. I stopped reading except for, you know, when I was home and didn't have finals or anything to work on. During university, during those first couple years, I really just fell off of being me. Thank you, Georgetown! Go Hoyas! Hoya freaking Saxa, baby! That's not Georgetown's fault, it's just the culture shock and good old academia culture. Love that. Come my senior year, COVID was kind of happening, and I was like, you know what, I'm really just questioning my identity, my sense of self, and I just want to get back in to doing things that I love, because the world may be ending tomorrow, you know? I'm about to graduate, I probably won't have a job, I hate what I'm doing, I want to have some joy in my life, I want to get back into the things that I want to do. And I had watched one of PewDiePie's book videos, and he had been talking about the letters of the Stoics, Seneca, and I was like, philosophy is a subject that I don't do well with, but I'm very interested in because I don't do well with abstract concepts, but I'm still interested in it. And I was like, this seems like a very practical thing to read, to be able to digest, to understand, just to kind of get my foot in the door of reading this kind of literature, right? But when I got my Seneca book, that was 400 pages of philosophy, I was like, I should also mention, senior, doing 2 theses at once because I hate myself, working 3 jobs, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read this 400-page philosophy book. Press X to doubt. Well, I did it. That's right, we motherfucking did it. And the strategy in this video is how. How did I do it? 10 pages a day. It was in the title, it was in front of you the entire time. 10 pages a day. I told myself, if I wake up in the morning, get my cup of coffee, get my breakfast, and I sit down before class, all I have to do is read 10 pages a day. That's all I gotta do. Divide the total number of pages in this book by 10, it would take me 40-something days to get through the book. Just doing that. Just a month, a little over a month, and I would finish this book. That seemed dang near impossible to me. But I did it because of following that strategy. I just got up every single morning, and I incorporated it into my... It wasn't even really a routine, I just made sure that I did it before class. And 10 pages went by a lot faster than you would think. Even to a subject that was as intimidating or kind of, you know, what I thought might be brain draining to me. And I ended up looking forward to those 10 pages every morning, and I ended up reading a little bit more than 10 pages every morning sometimes. It worked. I got through the book. I felt so proud of myself, and I still, every time I look at that book on my shelf, it's not at these shelves, it's at my parents' house, but every time I look at that book, I'm like, I freaking did that. You gosh darn right. I freaking did that. Hell yeah. And I'm still so proud of myself, and it's so interesting to be like, wow, I did that just by doing 10 pages a day. And that's when the common sense revelation hit, where it's slow but steady and constant progress. It may be slow, but each little step adds up to something bigger. Had to do it to him. And now that I've escaped from university, now that I am 3 years escaped with my degree and with a little bit of my sanity left, that is debatable depending on how much you think I went in there with, I have more leisure time to read. I've had more leisure time. I've been graduated for 3 years. We're talking a little bit in retrospect here. I've definitely gotten back into reading more over these past few years, but there's still a ton of books, and I'm looking at one specifically right now, that have just been on my TBR for years, have been on my backlist for years, because they're a little bit heftier, they're a little bit denser, or they're a little bit intimidating of a subject. Or I'm just like, I'm not sure if I like it, or I'm not in the mood for it, you know. Doesn't have to be just nonfiction like the dense and heavy stuff. It can be just a book that's been on your back burner for years just because you're like, I don't know if I want to read something like that right now. I'll get to it, and then 5 years later you're like, what is that still doing here? Trust me, I have plenty of those myself. And in realizing this, I thought, you know what? What better time to retest out this good old strategy that worked so well for me the first time? And that's what this video is gonna be. In this video, starting late into the year, I started this August 22nd, I believe, and I had a few books lined up, and I said, you know what? Using this strategy of 10 pages a day, let's go through the rest of the year from now through the rest of the year and see how much I can read with just 10 pages a day. Let's see how many books I can get through, and foremost, let's see if I can stick to reading 10 pages a day. Let's see if I can do that every day. Because when you're in a situation like college, especially when you're trapped in your apartment because of COVID and you can't go anywhere, it's a lot easier for someone like me, or it's a lot easier for me, I should say, to do a habit like that, because it just really becomes part of the routine alongside the coffee. It's like, what else can I do? Go for a walk outside? No. I guess I'll read. Made it sound like a torture implement. So really, there is no plan for this video. It's really just an experiment. I know how it ends because I'm from the future, which is present now, but when you're watching this, it will be in the past and relative to this. But starting this video really was just an experiment to see what would happen. To see if I could recreate the success of the first time around and do it in a longer stint. And hopefully implement it into being a life habit. There are a little bit of ground rules. Not very strict ground rules, but some ground rules. If you're planning on doing this for yourself, if you want to try this yourself, you don't have to follow these, obviously. But for me, I need a little bit of structure. So that's what this is about. First rule. The books that I am reading for the 10 pages a day challenge, I cannot read for pleasure or leisure outside of the 10 pages a day challenge. If I choose to read The Hunger Games, I can only read 10 or so pages of this a day. I can't do my 10 pages and then later go, you know what? I feel like reading The Hunger Games. Let's go back and just read until I feel like stopping. No. I'm not allowed to do that, me. This is really a rule that you don't have to follow if you're doing this. I'm just being strict with myself because I want to see how long it's going to take me to finish these books just doing 10 or so pages a day. But the whole emphasis of this challenge is to read more. So if you read your 10 pages in whatever book you choose, and then later in the day you're like, you know what? I want to read some more. Go read some more. Go do it. I'm not going to stop you. But for me and the purposes of making this harder for myself, no. Second non-strict rule. It can be more than 10 pages a day. That's kind of what makes this challenge fun for me, and that's what really made the Seneca reading really fun. 10 pages is just the benchmark. It's what you're shooting for. And I personally look at it as a minimum to get to. But I also don't want to go over, like, I don't want to read 30 pages. Let's say we start at page 20, which is the page right before chapter 2. Let's say that we start at page 20. So our 10 pages a day would take us to page what? Boys, girls, all configurations of being. Page 30. Correct. Page 30. That would be just the benchmark that I am shooting for, that I need to hit. But, looky here. Turn the page. There's only 1.5 pages to the next chapter. I can read that 1.5 pages if I still feel like going. And that really helped me with Seneca, because yes, they're in letter form, but I would often find that I'm at a paragraph break where it just continues into something that's really interesting, and so I'll continue on for the next page, or maybe the next 2 pages, or maybe the next chapter, like that example, is just 2 pages away. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? Let's go ahead and finish this chapter, let's go ahead and finish this section, and sometimes instead of 10, I'll read the 12, 13, 14. If it's getting to the point where it's like still 10 pages until the next thing, I'm like, I'll just save that for tomorrow. But if you're enjoying yourself, like I said, the whole thing is just to read more. So if you're enjoying yourself, please continue. And I also just wanted to explain this rule for the people who are going to watch this and be like, you read 12 pages instead of 10 on that day, so you're kind of cheating by seeing how many days it's going to take you to read 10 pages. I know, okay? I like to be difficult with myself, but not impossible. Are there any more rules? I think that's pretty much it. I probably made that as complicated to understand as possible, but words are not my strong suit in a reading video. That's enough explaining, that's enough extrapolating. What is the tentative TBR for this video? And I am reading outside of this challenge. I am leisure reading. I am reading for fun. I started this challenge with the focus of whittling down books that have been on my TBR for a very long time. Either that, or just books that I'm okay with making slow but steady progress through, that are not on my main list of what I want to get to in the moment. Stuff that I'm just happy picking up a little bit every day. If it doesn't take me first to take it, if it doesn't take me first, here's the TBR we started off with in this challenge. I know, they thick. They real thick, just like me, for real, for real. 4 different books. We have As I Lay Dying by Faulkner. We have I'm Glad My Mom Died, Jeanette McCurdy. I'm sorry for this lighting, it's just going crazy. Perfect Tunes by Emily Gould. And in the big boy, Makers of Modern Strategy, From Machiavelli to the Nuclear Age. This is a pretty much 1,000-pounder. This should be considered a weapon, honestly. This is... That was aggressive. Do I think... Don't look at that. Don't look at where the bookmark is. So this is our tentative TBR starting off in this video. I know it's a lot, but we gotta be ambitious because we have from August to the end of the year. As I Lay Dying is just a classic that I've been trying to read for forever, and I thought this was a good opportunity to get it done. I'm Glad My Mom Died. This is a relatively new release, especially last year when I started this challenge, and this is my cousin's copy of the book, so I really need to get it read, get it done, and get it back to her. Perfect Tunes. This just sounds like a really fun, quick, interesting read. It's about a mom and daughter relationship, and it involves music and tragic loss. Fun times. And this big hefty boy I bought on a whim when I was still in university because I was like, you know what, I'll just read this for fun. I didn't buy this for class. I bought this for fun. And I'm still really interested in reading it. I'm still really excited to get into it. It scares me. And that's the crux of why I started this challenge, is to help me get into books like this, to finish them with slow but steady progress, and at the end to be like, yeah, I freaking did that. My arms hurt. Weak sauce. There is a third tentative rule. There's actually a 4th one too. The 3rd one is try and read 1 at a time. That way you don't bounce around. Go through 1 at a time. Don't just 10 pages in this book and then 10 pages in that book. The reason I suggest that rule, and I'm trying to push it on myself, is because you might find yourself with 10 books that you're trying to read 10 pages a day in, and then you forget where you are, and then it just becomes like really overwhelming and just paralysis of choice. So I would recommend trying to stick with 1 at a time. Alright. Stick 'em up. You can't see me, but I was just pulling my sweatpants up to like waist-high level, like I'm just Steve Urkel. It's a good thing the camera can't see that. While I am going to be updating throughout this video, telling you my thoughts on how it's going, how I'm handling it, if I'm handling it at all, I'm going to save all of my total thoughts and reviews on these books till the very end of the video, where I go over the stats and how this all ended up. That's all going to be in the wrap-up. I'm also going to try and whittle down all the B-roll in this, because if I were to show you B-roll of me reading every single day, trust me, you don't want that. Because, like, yeah, it's just gonna be me reading. I also didn't film that every single day. Spoiler alert. And without further ado, let's go. Good morning, crow babies. Good morning. They have found sustenance. I can't tell which ones those are. I think that one might be Zach. But there's one on the tree, and then there's several others, I think, down in the field below the tree. Hold on. Reading has to be paused for this. See that one on the tree? I think that's Zach. And of course, every car in the world wants to pass by right now. Go away. I'm trying to talk about my crows. So, the sun is blinding me. But that one crow in the tree, I believe, is Zach. He's kind of a loner. But if you can hear them in a second, I think the other ones are down in the field down there. And I think that's where they're getting their food. Because several others did fly over there with him, but he's the only one up in the tree right now. He's a good boy. Or crow. I don't know their gender. This has been your local crow report with Chey. Chey's crow report. There's 5 that live in the tree over there. I've named all of them after members of Beartooth. If you know anything about Beartooth, it probably makes more sense to you now why that one is named Zach. Update time. It is November 20th, so we are almost at December, almost at the last month of the year. So I just wanted to give you a little update on where we are currently at. I haven't given many of these updates. In fact, this is probably the only one, because I'm not really sure how I'm going to format this video yet. I think I'm going to make it a retrospective at the end of it, so this will be interspersed somewhere. Chey, I'm sorry for making your life so difficult, but what else is new? So I don't have all the books here with me presently that I have completed, but I do have a few of them. I just wanted to give you a little sense of where we are at currently. I started this challenge at the beginning of August, I believe it was, or was it the end of August? August 23rd? August 3rd? Consulting the Oracle really fast. I'm in. August 23rd. In fact, when I say I have most of the things here I finished reading, I have everything but one. So, besides that one, here are the books that I have finished. It's November 20th, and look, this alone, this is 3 books. I have finished 3 books alone from the end of August to around the end of November. About 3 months, and I finished 3 books just by reading 10 pages a day. We have Faulkner's As I Lay Dying, we have Perfect Tunes by Emily Gould, and then I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is the most recent finished book that I have here. The other one that I don't have with me currently because it's at home is The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. And then I have 2 more that I'm currently working on. I'm working on that Makers of Modern Strategy book, which I don't think I'm going to finish by the end of the year, which that may not be when this video comes out, but it might be. This video's in a weird spot because I started it so late in the year that I think this is going to be a running experiment to see if I can get back into the habit of it by the end of the year and then restart at the beginning of the year and do it throughout next year and then make a video on that. I think that's where I'm headed. So I finished The Old Man and the Sea. I finished these. That's about, how many pages is this? Hold on, quick girl math. After some quick girl math, all that I have read so far in the completed books is 984 pages. Now you might be thinking, Chey, that math doesn't add up to all the days in between here and there. Yeah, that's because, like I said, I have 2 more books that I'm currently working on, so it's been divided between those as well. I've also been reading here and there in those. But as for the ones that I've completed so far, 984 pages. Just in the span of 3 months, you can read over 1,000 pages. Just by 10 pages a day. It still astounds me. I know it. I've done it twice now. I can see a lot of people give crap to people about, you only read a book a year or you don't read it all. Like, how do people, you know, it's so easy to read a book a year. And there's a bunch of people who don't even read a book a year, and that's totally fine. I am on the side where I would encourage you to read, but I don't think you have to read a physical book or even a Kindle or a book to read. But if you're someone who wants to start reading or wants to say, yeah, I at least read 1 book this year. If you're a person who wants to do that, or you just want to up your reading in general, incorporate more reading into your daily life, 3 months plus another 130-page book. It's a good strategy, at least for me. You can pick and choose as you like how many number of pages a day, but for me, I found 10 is the most doable. And also, if that math seems a little bit wonky to you, dividing 10 spliced pages a day, it's because it wasn't always perfectly 10, and that's kind of the point. Especially in Jeanette McCurdy's book, her chapters are so short anyway. I'd get to the 10-page mark, and there would be another half page before there was the next chapter, or there'd just be a page and a half before the next chapter. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and read that. Sometimes I would read 12, 14 pages a day in hers. It just, you know, depending. And that's a good side effect of this challenge, right? Because it just encourages reading. It's like, while you get in the groove, keep going. But sometimes it's just so hard to get in that groove. Now, I will say, I will be completely honest and say that I haven't read 10 pages every single day just because life happens. But I have in another sense. So some mornings I wake up and I don't have the time to read the 10 pages, but I will catch up in future days. So there was a span of 5 days once where I didn't read whatsoever. I was so mentally and physically drained. On the 6th day, I picked up The Old Man and the Sea because it's very readable, very, very easy on the eyes, and I read 60 pages. The 5 backlog days and that day. I feel like that's a danger zone that could happen for a lot of people. What if I miss a day and then I lose my 10 pages a day? Don't worry about it. You don't have to catch up. I'm just stubborn. It's just to keep it at the forefront of your mind as a thing to try and do. But know that it's okay if you can't, if you don't feel like it, if you simply don't want to. Sometimes you don't want to read. Especially if you're someone who has been out of reading for so long and a book intimidates you, like my Makers of Modern Strategy book. You're like, oh, I don't feel like reading 10 pages of war strategy this morning. I'm tired. Okay, you don't have to, bro. Life's an illusion. Partake. You don't have to do it. For all that blabbing, I'm having a great time. The books that I am still currently in the middle of are the Makers of Modern Strategy one. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to finish it this year, but oh well. I know I'm not going to finish it this year, not if I'm reading 10 pages a day, because I'm only 50 so pages into it, and there's only a month left, and there's 800 pages, so it's gonna take a while. Gonna take at least 75 more days, 750 pages. 75 days? Yeah, 75 days. Not enough time left in the year. That math don't math. Man in High Castle, the other one that I've started, I will have plenty of time to finish. And then there's gonna be some odd days left in the year once I finish it, because it's only 270 and I am 40 pages into it, so definitely gonna finish it before the end of the year, but I might just take those few days off and then restart my Makers of Modern Strategy at the beginning of the year. That might be what I do. I'm having a good time. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself for sticking to it, because I wasn't sure how this was gonna go, but I wanted to get back into it so badly because it served me so well my senior year of college. Whenever I start to doubt it, I look at that book by Seneca that I read, and I just, wow. Because there is no other way I would have felt comfortable picking up a philosophy book. Philosophy is so hard to wrap my mind around. I just don't do well with abstract ideas. I don't understand abstract things, which now I understand is a larger part of my ADHD and stuff, but at the time it was really frustrating, especially for someone who was in an epistemology class. Is that the right word? I think it is. I got out of that class with an A. Don't ask me how. Because I barely understood what was going on half the time, but I did my best. And I chose that book on Stoicism, and I was like, okay, I'm really scared and I'm intimidated by it because it's gonna be very big brain, I think. And my big brain don't big brain when it comes to philosophy, but if I do 10 pages a day, every morning, I think I can make it digestible enough for me to intake in the morning and then just think about throughout the day, let it resonate, and maybe review what I go over, you know, at night before I go to bed. And we'll just see how it goes. And I read it in a month! I read it in a month! A book that I thought I would have never been able to finish, let alone even get halfway through. I finished in a month. And I still think about it, and I understood what I read. And so that lesson is just gonna stick with me as a strategy for my life and this video. Back to whenever Chey is. Hi, Chey. Happy New Year, Chey. Hi. I'm behind by about 3 days on where I should be in this, so it's a nice fall day out here today. The sun is shining. I just have a coat on for the wind. It's about, like, I'd say it's like in the mid-50s. It's a pretty nice sunny day. Sitting in the sun is warmer than you'd expect. You get warmer than you'd expect just coming out here for the first time, maybe in the morning. It's about 11 o'clock. I'd say it's after 10, but I feel like it's closer to 11. It's like 10:20. Either way, I'm 3 days behind on this, 30 pages behind, so I'm gonna get caught up in this while enjoying this nice, beautiful weather, this nice, beautiful sunshine, and try to ignore the trucks going all up on the hill while I'm trying to talk to you. It was perfectly quiet out here, and then just every truck in the friggin' county wanted to start driving by. Me here. I completely forgot if I read my 10 pages yesterday or not, so I'm gonna be reading 20 pages tonight because I have plenty of time and I can. And even if I did read yesterday, I really don't think I did. But even if I did, then I just get 10 pages ahead and I finish a day early. I'm gonna read. What's up? It's December 11th, and I haven't read in like a week, or at least I haven't read in a week in this, which, whoops, but you know, that's just how life happens. I know the whole point of this is to be like, read 10 pages every day, but it's the holiday season and life got in the way, and I don't have to make excuses, because things just happen. Today, though, I'm gonna catch up from where I've left off, and that is actually finishing this book today. Since it's been a week, I only have 70 pages left in this book, so I'm just gonna sit down and finish this sucker today and finish another book. Then tomorrow I will continue reading 10 pages every day in Makers of Modern Strategy, because there's no way I'm gonna finish that book this year, but I can make a lot of decent progress in the last 20-something days of this year. 20-something, no, it's like 19. No, actually it's exactly 20. No. It's 19. Today's the 12th. Today's the 12th, so it's 19. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go outside because it's sunny outside today. It's actually kind of nice. Finish this book, come in, and maybe do a tiny little workout. Yeah. I'll catch up with you later. Never mind, I waited too long. Now it's kind of cloudy out, and it's not very warm to sit out here in the sun. I might try to tough it out and read like 10 pages, and then go back inside. It was so nice out here earlier, though, just 2 hours ago. I hate that the sun goes in so early. I hate it. I'm stubborn, so here we go. I'm very sick, and it's December 18th. I've been sick for a few days, but I am very sick, so I'm not going to talk very long, because you don't want to hear me talk, and I don't feel like talking. It's all going to be okay. I think it's just a really, really nasty head cold, but if you can't hear, I can barely breathe. But I'm here to update you on this. This is my current 10 pages a day read. This was a book that I originally started this challenge with, and then I just got distracted onto other books that I wanted to read and then finished them. I finished The Man in the High Castle. Mildly disappointing. It was still good, but just mildly disappointing for what I thought it was gonna be. I rated it like 3 out of 5 stars, so it's fine. But this is going to be my next focus until I do finish it, because I think if I read 10 pages every day, as I've been planning on doing, every day for the rest of the year, I will be 100 and something pages into this, like 200 pages, I think. I can't math, I barely have a brain cell right now. But then, I will be able to finish it in like a month, so to speak, or so. You're probably wondering why there are 2 bookmarks in here right now. It's because this is where I am, and this is where I should be. Because I've been sick, I have skipped several days of reading. 6, in fact, because I finished The Man in High Castle on the 11th or the 12th, so I need to read 60 pages to catch up to where I should be in here. I already read 12 pages this morning, and I understood it. I comprehended it. The mind is amazing. That being said, I still have a long way to go, so I'm gonna get to reading while I'm home and it's quiet. But I'm not gonna film this while I read it, because you don't want to see sick Chey huffing and puffing. Just catch you later. What's up? I have missed several days in a row of reading. Oh gosh. Oh goodness. I'm sorry. I just like assaulted you with this. I've missed several days in a row of reading this. Several. And I do mean several. I mean so many that I'm afraid to tally it up. And it's December 30th right now. Tomorrow is the New Year's. And that's when the cutoff for this video is gonna be. So I'm just gonna use the rest of tonight, because I have a gig tomorrow night, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to read 10 pages tomorrow. I'm definitely not gonna get caught up by New Year's, which is fine. It sucks, but it's fine. So I'm just gonna try to read as much as I can before bed tonight, and I'll make a short clip tomorrow telling you how much I read. But for right now, I gotta get to reading. Welcome to January 1st. I know, technically, this challenge is over, because I was just gonna stop it at the end of the year, but I wanted to give you an update, because I lied to you the other day when I said that I was gonna give you an update, and I didn't. And that's because I went to work yesterday, December 31st, for 13 hours, until 2 a.m. this morning. From 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon to 2:30 a.m. this morning, working at the New Year's Eve festival in my hometown, audio teching and stuff like that. I'm gonna update you on where I was in this. So, where I got to was page 217. Now, for those of you keeping up, I'm gonna be honest and tell you, as I mentioned, that I missed a few days here and there in between, but on the day before, I read 50 pages. I was on 164, 167, and I read 50 pages and finished a chapter, so a few more pages, and got to 217. I went through and I did some math. I did some girl math, and I just wanted to let you know that as of yesterday, when the challenge ended, I am only 30 pages behind where I was supposed to have been on that day. So I only missed 3 days. I made up for the days that I missed with 50 pages. So I'm only 30 pages behind where I need to be, plus the 10 that I'm supposed to read today in this. But for the end of the year's challenge, being only 30 pages behind isn't that bad, and I'm going to try and make up as much of that as I can tonight. But I wanted to be honest and just clear and be like, hey, I missed a few days. It's okay. I'm 30 pages behind where I'm supposed to be, according to the laws of this habit that I'm trying to make. But that's kind of the beauty of the point, is that you don't have to make it up. It's just a guideline. But for me, I want to finish this bad boy. I want to be able to say, yeah, I read that. Yeah, I read that. So I'm trying to stick to the 10 pages a day, so I want to try and make up those 30 pages. But you absolutely do not have to. Don't listen to me. Don't do what I do. I'm dumb. It's just a guiding principle. It's not a dictated order. If you're reading, you're winning. If you only read one page, you're winning. If you read a paragraph, you're winning. You read a word, you're winning in my brain. Because you're trying, and you're making that effort. It's just trying to make it a habit, and this proves how hard it is, but also how rewarding it is, because I'm like 200 something pages in this book now. I read a few pages earlier today, so I'm like 220 something, but in this guy, I never would have thought. And here we are. In an odd month or two into this new year, happy 2024, by the way. It is January 1st as I'm filming this. I'm gonna finish this in like a month or two. It's pretty wild. Okay, we're gonna get to wrap up, Chey. We're back, and it's the end. Hi, it's me again. It's me, and it's always the problem. It's me. Did you enjoy your journey? I always ask that at the end of a long video, but I hope you enjoyed your journey, because I did. But you're not here for me to wax poetic about if you enjoyed your journey or not. You're here for the wrap-up and the stats, so let's do that. All the books that I ended up reading... Hold on. Hold your horses. Hold your gosh darn horses. Don't hold them too tight. They might think that you're suffering or suffocating them, but just hold them real tight, real close, real nurturing and loving like. Okay? This is a problem to hold. And this is it. This is what we ended up with. I feel weird about including this guy in there because I did not end up finishing this by the end of the year. As you saw, I only got 217 pages in. As far as fully completed books in this challenge, these are those books. I fully started and finished these books. These 5. This and 200 pages of this. From the end of August to the end of December. Holy crap. Alright, now let's fix that lighting. I ended up finishing the anticipated TBR, which was, again, I'm Glad My Mom Died, Jeanette McCurdy, Perfect Tunes, Emily Gould, As I Lay Dying, William Faulkner, plus 2 bonus books that got added throughout the challenge, The Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway, and The Man in High Castle by Philip, non-monetizable word. And then again, did not finish, but 200 something odd pages of this guy. This much of this guy. That's a big chunk. I'm really proud of myself. Am I surprised? Very much so. Am I impressed? Yes, still very much so. This did not start, well, it started out strong, but then it really fell off in the middle and really fell off at the end. In my defense, I had a lot of personal life events happen in the latter half of the year that really just took up my world, and a lot of this was on the back burner. A lot of YouTube stuff, a lot of everything outside of those events and personal and family things were on the back burner. Life happens, you know, you just gotta take it and roll with it and do your best every single day, and your best changes every single day. And a lot of times my best was not being able to read at all. So the fact that I was able to do that much, I'm very proud of myself. While I did start out strong and I read for 10 pages every single day for the first good part of this challenge, and then I started falling off, I'm very proud of myself of how I was able to catch back up. If you fall behind a couple of days, please don't feel like, oh goodness, I missed 3 days, now I have to read like 30, 40 pages a day. Don't feel like you have to do that. I'm just being like that for the sake of this challenge, for seeing how many pages I would have completed during a perfect run of this. But life's not perfect and neither am I. Nobody's perfect. I gotta work it again and again till we get it right. Nobody's perfect. You live and you learn it. I did manage to catch back up every single time, even towards the end of the year. Even the last day of the year, I was still 30 pages behind. But it's the fact that I made the effort to catch up. With ADHD, whatever you want to attribute it to, I have a history of when I fall off of a habit, when I stop doing something, then it's like dead to me. I'm like, no, I can't go back. It's done. That's old news. The novelty has worn off. It's done. The fact that I actually said, no, you know what? I am committed to this, not just for the sake of a video, but for the sake of making it a practice, for the sake of making it a habit. I am gonna stick to it, and I'm gonna make up where I left off to get to where I need to be now, and then we're just gonna start fresh again. We're just gonna jump right back into it. That took a lot for me to be able to do, and I'm proud of myself for that. Go Chey, good job. There's some days where I was reading 60 pages in this to catch up. Do I think I got better at it as the year went on? Yes. it really, really slackened at the end of the year to where if I was missing, it was like I missed a day or no more than 4 at a time, usually. But I got better at when I missed days, I wasn't missing as much and I was catching back up faster. I think that's a good sign because I do want to continue doing this. I do want to make this part of my practice of my morning routine habits, showing while it's not a perfect run, while everything's not perfect, it's the will to consistently work at it and just improve on it and not give up. I'm good with it. I'm good with my performance review. And speaking of performance review, let's get into some stats, shall we? So as I've shown you, I read 5 full books plus 200 and something pages of the big boy. For total number of pages read, I read 1,476 pages. 1,476 pageroonies. Just 10 pages a day. And again, I read stuff outside of this. While quantifying it in books makes it look, you know, impressive, it's like, oh yeah, I finished all those just from, you know, in the span of like 4 months. That's really cool. Seeing it quantified in actual number of pages, that's why I say, like, I think this strategy could work well for a lot of people, because while it's slow, while it's small, it adds up to big things. 1,476 big things. And I lied to you, I started this on August 21st. Whoops. So if you want to get into the stats of how many pages per day, because remember, I told you I could read a little bit more over 10 if I felt like still going. From August 21st to December 31st, that is 132 days. 1,476 divided by 132 days, it's a little over 11 pages a day. Now, if I had done this for the full year, I'd be reading over 3,000 pages, give or take, probably. Yeah, because 365 times 10 is 36. I'd be reading over 3,000 pages. Girl math! And I have a timeline on Notion, which I will just screenshot and put it up here for your viewing pleasure. So when I first put this into Notion, I put the title of the book, when I started it, the total pages in the book, and dividing my 10 pages a day, how many days it should take me to finish this book. Now, you'll see a column next to that that says, days actually spent reading the book. And you will notice, I'm glad my mom died, is an estimated 30 days, and it took me 83. Now, Chey, how did this happen? How did this tragedy occur? Well, it's because I didn't follow the rule. It's because I read more than one book at a time. It's because I flew too close to the sun. I travel back and forth to my parents' house to stay with them and help them out with stuff because they are getting older in their years, and so I like to go home and stay with them a couple days to help them out around the house with projects and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I'd leave my 10 pages a day book here, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to have to make that up later. And so I'd have a book at my parents' house that I would then pick up and read for those 10 pages a day. That's where this discrepancy comes into play. So I was passing off back and forth between which books I was reading. Because you can see, The Old Man in the Sea took exactly 12 days, which is what I pretty much figured. The Man in High Castle took 4 less days than I estimated. As I Lie Dying took 6 less days. Perfect Tunes took almost twice as long. Makers of Modern Strategy has not been finished yet, but I have been reading it on and off for these 130 past few days, because I started it 2 days into the challenge, and then just on and off for the past 130 through then. The number of days in the column for days actually spent reading does not mean that I read that book every single one of those days. It's just the time span between when I started it and when I finished it. So while I was reading I'm Glad My Mom Died, and I started at this date, I would also pick up Makers of Modern Strategy and read 10 pages here or there in it, and so it took me longer to finish I'm Glad My Mom Died, because in those 3 days that I could have spent reading I'm Glad My Mom Died, I was reading 30 pages in Modern Strategy, and so it extended Jeanette's by like 3 days. I hope I explained that well. Maybe if I just made my life less complicated, you know, maybe if I could just follow structure that I set for myself. Yeah, right. Alright, so that's your stats. Let's get into the summary of the book, shall we? So we can get out of here. The Man in High Castle. It was an easy read. It was very, very easy to read. It was an engaging read. This was one of the books that I often read over 10 pages a day in it, just to finish the section or finish the chapter. I don't think that it's a book for me, though. As a history nerd, it kind of hurts to say that. My degree is in history, but not alternate history. I love the show. Well, I shouldn't say I love the show. I like the show on Amazon, and I watched that before I read this book. That's what made me want to read this book. And I do not blame the book for not following the show or, like, living up to the show. I don't think that's fair. So I judge it apart from that. I will just say that I was surprised that it was different, though considering the history of adaptations, I shouldn't really be that surprised. But the expectations of the show kind of following the plot line and the intricacies of the show was what engaged me with the show, because I'm like, oh, this is an interesting story. And so that's what I kind of thought I was going to be getting here. No, this is just slice of life in alternate history hub, which is fine, I think, if that's what you know that you're going into, but I just think that this book is like the Indiana Jones problem, where it's Indiana Jones and, oh my god, what is the movie? I need to finish filming this, so I'm just gonna forget. The Ark. The movie with the Ark. The Indiana Jones movie with the Ark. You know how they're like, if Indiana Jones wasn't in the Ark movie, like, it would still end the same because they would have opened it up and then they would have poofed? Yeah, that's what this book felt like, because we had all this build-up for this girl to find out this secret and found out this big plot point of this world of like, hey, we're living in a simulation! And then nothing comes of it. She goes and, like, they all figure it out and she, like, lets out the secret, lets the cat out of the bag, and then nothing happens. She just goes home. Like, she didn't just give, like, an earth-shattering revelation to some of the most powerful people, like, in the region, and the people that kind of started it, and they were like, oh god, I thought that was fiction and it's real? You're telling me that this simulation that I wrote is real? That this is really happening? Okay. See you later. Thanks for coming to the party. Pointless. It just felt pointless. Now, was it an interesting read? Yeah, it was interesting. I think the world building was really well done. I thought the characters were interestingly built. I have things to say about the female character representation. If anyone has any dissertations or essays about the women in this author's books, I'd love to read them, because I don't know what to think. Overall, 3 out of 5. I'm glad I read it because it's considered a classic, and I'm glad that I read it to be able to have a dialogue on it. But it didn't impress me. It's not a new favorite or anything. William Faulkner's As I Lie Dying. William Faulkner's As I Lay Dying. This is another book that I don't really know what to think about it. I didn't even really tell you what The Man in High Castle is about. It's about if the Allies didn't win World War II, and the Axis powers took over America, and it was divided between Germany and Japan, and then no man's land in the middle. And then the rest is pretty much just, it's an interesting premise, interesting details of the society and how it works, and all the things that have been implemented, and all the government interactions and stuff like that, but besides that, it's a slice of life that's interesting but pointless. And I love celebrating mundanity here, but that was just disappointing. As I Lay Dying, William Faulkner. This follows a family who is trying to bury their mother. You ever played the Oregon Trail? This is the book. This book follows the death of the matriarch of this rural family, this very poor, very rural family, and their journey to go give her the burial that she desired, that she requested, and their trials and tribulations and personal problems and dynamics along the way. I feel like I need to read a different copy of this, because I think this copy, I think the back said like it was his uncorrected version of it, like it was Faulkner's just unedited, typed out version, and it felt like it, because more than 70% of the time I was going, what the f*** is going on? What are you saying? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? It didn't make any sense to me. And I grew up down here in the backwoods. I understood a lot of what they were saying when they were saying like the country slang terms or the references to like woodworking tools and like farming and the culture, like when they were talking about like you don't do a man that way or you don't slight a courtesy like that. Like I got all that. It's just more the metaphorical flowery language and the internal dialogue and thoughts. The whole thing about my mom's a fish. I wanted to be a fish in that flooded river. I just wanted this to be over. Like, I want to try rereading it because there are a lot of beautiful lines and a lot of beautiful, wonderful observations about nature and the power of nature. Not only nature like the natural world, but like the nature of the family. And there were some twists and turns in this that I was like, okay. So I wanted to really enjoy it, but it just kind of drove me crazy by being not able to understand half of what's going on half the time. Because, like, there were points where I thought I was just sleep deprived because I would read words in a sentence and I'm like, though, that is not the sentence that I just read because that doesn't make sense. And I know I'm one to talk about making sense and making words into a sentence. So for me to tell you that's a problem in this book, at least this version of it was bad. The story was good, the way it was written was good, but I also think that I just need to read a different version of this. I'm hoping it's not that way in the regular version. If it is, please let me know. Because I'm just, again, I enjoyed my time here somewhat. I'm glad that I read it, I'm glad I had the experience, but just disappointed. Disappointed in the writing, not in the story. The story was pretty good. And I can see why it's a classic. I just wish that it was more coherent to understand, and I didn't feel like I was in a fever dream half the time. The scene where they're fighting the flood over the bridge. Hi, if you're new here, I have very, very strong trauma related to rain and floods. Chey lore for you. I'm terrified of heavy rain and flooding, and I was reliving some stuff during that scene. Regardless of the flowery, metaphorical, all that kind of language or the unedited stuff that didn't make sense, that scene really clicked for me because I was like, I've been there. Animals going underwater and you gotta dive in to save different tools and you gotta dive in to save animals and stuff and you're holding on to the animals. I've been there. Lived that. Not for the same purposes or, whatever, but, I can relate. I feel for you, Jebediah. I don't remember what their names are, but I felt for them and that really hit home and I really appreciated the truthful and powerful descriptions of nature, especially in that scene of, like, nature is something you don't f with. I'm glad my mom died, Jeanette McCurdy. This is one of my favorite books of this stack, and I don't think anyone's surprised. I don't like to give ratings to people's memoirs, to people's biographies, because it's like I'm rating their life, but I really enjoyed it. As someone who has struggled with my own eating habits and relationship to food, not in the ways that she has, but just in my own personal history, I appreciated her discussion of it. And her insight into it. I saw myself a lot in this book. And as someone who has what I consider a really good relationship with my mom, it made me feel really lucky and appreciative for the relationship that I have with my mom. I don't know what else I can tell you about this book, except that I really, really like it. I will probably be buying my own copy. And I love her humor. She's so funny. And the way that she thinks about stuff, the way that she ponders and processes through things, I get relatable. I really appreciated and respected her approach to different things. Even though I didn't always agree with her on stuff, I just respected the honesty. Even into the shadowy parts of her life, like the most shadowy parts of her life, just the honesty of being like, hey, not everything's solved yet, or like, not everything's healed, but it is what it is, and that's life. You don't have to be on the other side of something to be able to look back and to start processing it, because it's a process for a reason. Perfect Tunes, Emily Gould. This was like a 2, 3, like a 2. Just, it wasn't necessarily bad, it was just pretty flat. I enjoyed the premise of it. It's this girl who lives in New York trying to make her way with her roommate, and she ends up falling in with this band member, and he passes away, and she finds out she's pregnant with his child. Spoiler, not. And a big part of this, and see, I even forgot about it because there was just so much going on through this book that just, like, wasn't developed, that it fell flat, that I forgot about it. A big point of this book is that our main female MC, the mother, wanted a music career of her own the entire time. But because she's a female, yay, got overshadowed a lot by her own partner's career. And, just the industry in general, and her having to, fight for her life out being a waitress, and just trying to make rent, and trying to live her life. And just a bunch of things that didn't end up happening, didn't end up helping. Well, especially when she found out she was pregnant, she really put that life on hold to prioritize her child. Especially since she was going to be doing it as a single mother. Well, this book follows her going through that, and then trying to be a mother and raise this girl, and also debating on whether or not she wants to get back into music, or if she wants to chase music, and just juggling what is being a priority in her life. And then the daughter, as the daughter gets older, finds out who her father was, and she wants to find out more about him, and so she goes on a journey to find out more about him. And it had such potential to be a really cool, really engaging story. But there were a lot of little tendrils in a lot of different areas that just ended up going nowhere. Or at least not being as developed as I feel like they could have been. I don't know, like, it wasn't bad, it was just a little bit disappointing. It just kind of fell flat. I don't like talking negatively about stuff on this channel. I feel like there's enough negativity out there in the world. So, like, yeah, I joke and, like, I exaggerate, and I will call things like I see it, but generally I don't like to focus on being super negative, or I don't like to focus on things that I don't like. So when I tell you that I did like this, it was just disappointing and fell flat, I mean that. I'm not just saving face by, you know, telling you, like, oh, no, I hate it, I secretly hate it. No, if I really didn't like this book, I would tell you so. But I'm not gonna sit here and rag on someone's work. Not for views, not for fun, not unless I know about it and they're okay with it. So, fine. I think someone else would enjoy this. It was a fine, quick time, but I don't know. Just flat. Moving on to the next one, which absolutely did not fall flat in any way whatsoever, except for the fact that it is a very flat book. The Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway. I love Ernest Hemingway, this is no secret to anybody. He's one of my favorite authors next to Kurt Vonnegut. I love his writing style, I love his prose. I think he is just an impossibility of a human being. And I hope that one day when I pass into the ether beyond, that my eulogy will be as storied as his. If you've seen that Randy Feltface video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is one of those books that I feel like a lot of people read in school. We didn't. I don't think we read any Hemingway in school. Or at least they used to read this back in the yonder years. When I was younger, I heard that this was a book that a lot of people read in school. At least in, you know, high school English class, because it's pretty short. It's just shy over 100 pages. It's like 120 something pages. Yeah, it's real short. And it's really quick to read. I mean, 126 pages, and like this is the paging. It's real quick. So what did I think about it? I freaking loved it. 5 freaking stars. I loved it. I didn't know what to think of it going into this, because I started it and I was like, okay, where's this gonna go? Because it's about an old man who is a fisherman. No shock. But he's had really, really bad luck with his fishing these past few years, and this boy wants to help him. The old man helped train the boy, but now the boy has had good luck, and he's on a different boat helping different fishermen, and the boy wants to come with him, but the old man's like, no, I'll be fine, I'll go by myself. You'll have bad luck if you come with me. Go back to your good boat, and we'll fish some other time. So the old man takes out on the boat by himself, and he hooks this huge fish, and the fish starts pulling him into the sea, and he's like, well, I'm not letting this baby go. Finally, my luck's turning around. Yeehaw! And so he lets the fish keep dragging him into the sea, and it's just the fight of man against sea, against fish, man versus nature. And it's just a test of wills. It's a test of strength. And pleasantly, it's a good ride the whole way through. I wasn't bored at any point in the story. You might think, okay, well, if he's out there for days with this fish, what is there to write about? There's a lot to write about. Hemingway's attention to detail, like down to how the guy cuts his hands on the nets and how it feels, how the chafing feels, how he's doing with his thirst, how the sun looks on the water. All of it is told in precisely the order I think that not only makes sense, but helps carry the story along in a way that keeps it from being boring. It keeps it from being info-dumpy. It just keeps you riding along on a good, forgive the pun, wave of the story until you get to the next action scene or what have you. And something that I've always loved in Hemingway's writing, as I did with Faulkner's, is just the appreciation of nature. I think Faulkner said like this was one of his favorite Hemingway stories or something, like this is one of the greatest Hemingway stories. I know the whole thing about Hemingway and Faulkner, but what can I say? The appreciation of nature! I wrote down so many quotes from this book in my commonplace book regarding nature and just the love of it, and more importantly, the respect for it. The respect for the power of nature and how nature does not care about you. As in, nature's gonna do what it's gonna do, and good luck. This had me, forgive the pun, but I mean this one on purpose, hook, line, and sinker. And it had the really good Hemingway trademarks of being an engaging, action-filled story that was full of human joy and also human tragedy in equal measure. Just the tragedy of being human, the little tragedies of being human, as well as the little joys and the little introspections of being human. I just think it's really well done. It's probably one of my favorite Hemingway stories to date. It's a really short, really good time. If you're looking for a short classic to get into, I do this one. Do this one. If you're not gonna do Vonnegut, do this one. And the last one, which is gonna be pretty darn quick because I have not finished it yet, Makers of Modern Strategy. I can't really give you a review or summary on this because I have not yet finished it, but I wanted to tell you my thoughts so far. There's too much for me to give you an in-depth thought so far because we are going from Machiavelli to the nuclear age. There's a lot of information in this book. There's a lot of information. There's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I'm enjoying it though. While I can't give you like a full summary or a list of thoughts so far, even in just the 200 pages, because that would be the equivalent to a college lecture, and good God, I don't want to put you through that. I already did that with the Beartooth video this month. I'm enjoying it. I'll just tell you that I'm enjoying it, and I'm having a better time than I thought I would. I thought that I would just be bombarded with information and it would be too much. I thought that it would hurt my teeny little pea brain. But the method of the 10 pages a day is helping so much because I'm like, okay, well, I only have to read 10 pages. And it's making the information more digestible. Wow, shocker. But it is for me because I'm looking at this and I put off even just trying to read this for so long that now that I'm reading 10 pages a day, it's easier for me to digest. It's easier for me to take throughout my day and think about it. And then by the time that I'm reading 10 more pages, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. And oh, I'm getting that principle or that point a lot better. Like it's making sense now that it's been working in the back of my brain for the past 24 hours. I'm ready to know more about it rather than just packing fact over fact over fact over fact if I had to read, you know, like 100 pages of this at a time. It's instead going like, okay, you got these, and now by tomorrow, this amount of facts will be digested and you'll be able to build up on top of it. It's a good building fact-based read, and I'm really enjoying my time. I'm learning a lot, and I'm having fun with it. That sounded sarcastic. It wasn't sarcasm. I am learning a lot, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm so happy that I finally started this, because I know when I finish it, I'm gonna be like, hell yeah! Not gonna finish it till the end of this month. I'll just give you a little bit of a preview, because, who cares? It's my video. I make the rules. I'm 22 days away from finishing this. By the time you see this video, I'll probably be less than 20-something days from finishing this. As of where this video stands for the 200, I am really enjoying it, learning a lot. I would tell you with confidence, if you're interested in stuff like this, or any kind of nonfiction that may be just a little bit dense, a little bit thicky through, the 10 pages a day method works wonders. Okay, that's it. I'm proud of myself. I want to know, do you have a similar method to this? Have you tried a method like this? I know that I didn't invent it. I'm just sharing the good word of it with everyone else. I know this is not like a super original idea or anything, but it was for me. But have you tried this method? Have you done something similar to it? What were your results? What were your thoughts? Are you going to try something like this? Let me know, I'm curious. Tell me down in the comments below, we can talk about it. I promise I don't bite on Tuesdays. That's gonna be it for this video. If you want to watch some more bookish videos of mine, I have a whole playlist called Books that I'll link up in the cards and down in the description below. It has vlogs and challenges like these, as well as just reviews and fun times all around. And if you want more future book stuff, subscribe, because I will be making more book chaos in the future. I don't plan on book videos being my main form of content, but I will continue making book videos because I love to read and I love making videos like this. So if you want to see more like that, hit the subscribe button and stick around. Or if you just like chaos, stick around for that too. As for right now though, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you ain't heard it from anyone else today, I love you. Love and peace. Bye!